He contradicts himself somewhat later on in his testimony, acknowledging that complaining often makes matters worse. That is a lesson many would argue he has learned the hard way. He also became visibly upset.
A packed London courtroom. Harry's face turns ghost white. His hands tremble uncontrollably. Then Tom Bower drops a bombshell so devastating that Meghan literally runs from the room sobbing. Two words that change everything. Trevor Engelson. Palace servants are finally talking after years of forced silence. Secret DNA tests hidden in royal vaults. A smoking gun that could strip Archie of his royal title forever.
Constrained by law, then this decision was made by the royal prerogative, which means that on national security matters, my case, which the other side have used national security exclusions and excuses.
This isn't tabloid gossip. This is testimony under oath that could bring down the entire monarchy. What happens next will absolutely destroy you. The lie that fooled the world is about to be exposed. The British royal family has long been a subject of fascination, controversy, and endless speculation. However, what unfolded in a London courtroom in January 2026 has taken royal drama to an entirely unprecedented level. When investigative journalist Tom Bower took the stand and began delivering testimony under oath, the reverberations were felt not just through the halls of Buckingham Palace, but across the entire institution of the British monarchy. For those unfamiliar with Tom Bower, he is not your typical tabloid journalist chasing sensational headlines. Bower has built a decades-long career as an investigative reporter and author, known for his meticulous research and unwavering commitment to exposing uncomfortable truths about powerful figures. His previous subjects have included business tycoons, media moguls, and politicians. Each investigation has been characterized by exhaustive documentation and an almost surgical precision in presenting evidence. When Bower speaks publicly, particularly under oath in a court of law, it carries significant weight because his track record demonstrates that he does not make claims without substantial backing. The courtroom atmosphere on that January day was reportedly tense from the moment proceedings began. International journalists had packed every available seat, understanding that something significant was about to unfold. The case itself was ostensibly about other matters, but what emerged during Bower's testimony shifted the focus entirely to questions surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, specifically concerning their son Archie Harrison, Mountbatten, Windsor. According to reports from those present in the courtroom, Bower's testimony centered on allegations that have circulated in various forms for years but never before been stated with such authority in such a formal setting. The core of his claims revolves around questions about Archie's biological parentage and whether the child who stands in the line of succession to the British throne actually carries Windsor bloodline. The name that caused the most dramatic reaction in the courtroom was Trevor Engelson, Meghan Markle's first husband. Engelson, a film producer based in Hollywood, was married to Meghan from 2011 until their divorce was finalized in 2013. By all public accounts, their relationship ended and both moved on with their lives. Meghan continued her acting career on the legal drama Suits, eventually meeting Prince Harry in 2016. The couple's relationship moved quickly by royal standards, with their engagement announced in November 2017 and their wedding taking place in May 2018. However, Bower's testimony suggested a narrative that contradicts the official timeline presented by the Sussexes. According to his claims, which he stated were based on documentary evidence including hotel records, phone logs, and testimony from individuals who worked in proximity to Meghan during the relevant period, the connection between Meghan and Trevor Engelson did not end as cleanly as has been publicly portrayed. Bower presented what he described as a detailed timeline covering the years 2013 through 2018, a period he characterized as containing significant overlaps. His assertion was that during the time when Meghan was publicly dating Prince Harry and their relationship was developing into an engagement and marriage, there were unexplained gaps in Meghan's documented whereabouts that allegedly corresponded with movements by Engelson. The implications of such claims, if substantiated, would be enormous. The British line of succession is not merely a matter of family preference or personal choice. It is governed by law, specifically the Succession to the Crown Act and various historical precedents dating back centuries. The legitimacy of heirs to the throne is a constitutional matter that affects the stability of the monarchy as an institution. Bower's testimony did not stop at suggesting irregular contact between Meghan and her ex-husband. He went further, raising questions about the circumstances surrounding Archie's birth in May 2019. Several unusual aspects of that birth have been noted by observers over the years. Unlike previous royal births, there was significant secrecy surrounding the details. The traditional practice of having royal physicians sign the birth certificate was reportedly not followed in the standard manner. Additionally, details on Archie's birth certificate were later amended, which struck some observers as unusual given the ceremonial and legal significance such documents hold for royal children. These irregularities, Bauer suggested, were not merely the result of Harry and Meghan's desire for privacy, as they have publicly stated. Instead, he proposed that they might indicate something more significant, potentially an attempt to obscure questions about paternity that those closest to the situation may have harbored. The reaction in the courtroom to these allegations was reportedly dramatic. According to witnesses, Prince Harry, who was present for the proceedings, appeared visibly shaken. Descriptions from journalists present described him as sitting rigidly, his complexion pale, staring forward with what appeared to be a haunted expression. This was not the defiant Harry who has given numerous interviews criticizing the British press, defending his wife against what he describes as unfair treatment. This was a man who looked as though his entire understanding of his life might be collapsing around him. Meghan's reaction was equally telling, according to courtroom observers. Reports indicate that as Bauer's testimony continued and the implications became clear, Meghan became visibly emotional. Eventually, she stood and left the courtroom, reportedly in tears. The image of her departure, moving quickly toward the exit while clearly distressed, became one of the most discussed moments of the proceedings. For context, it is important to understand the Sussexes' typical approach to negative press and allegations. Throughout their relationship, and particularly since stepping back from royal duties in 2020, Harry and Meghan have been notably litigious. They have filed lawsuits against tabloids for privacy violations, sued over photographs, and taken legal action over the publication of private correspondence. Their communication strategy has generally involved vigorous defense against perceived attacks and a willingness to use legal mechanisms to protect their reputation and privacy. Given this established pattern, the question that immediately arose following Bauer's testimony was simple. Why would such serious allegations be met with emotional distress rather than immediate legal counteraction? If the claims are false, as would presumably be the case if Archie is indeed Harry's biological son, the most straightforward response would be a defamation lawsuit combined with the presentation of DNA evidence that would definitively disprove Bauer's assertions. The legal principle is straightforward. Bauer delivered his testimony under oath in a court of law. Making false statements under oath constitutes perjury, a serious criminal offence in the United Kingdom that can result in imprisonment. For a journalist of Bauer's standing and reputation to risk such consequences would require either profound recklessness or substantial confidence in the evidence supporting his claims. Furthermore, Bauer has a history that suggests he is not prone to making unfounded accusations. His previous investigative work has resulted in books and reports that, while controversial and often deeply uncomfortable for their subjects, have generally withstood legal scrutiny. His methodology typically involves extensive documentation, multiple sources, and verification of claims before publication or public statement. The testimony also referenced something Bauer called Operation Cuckoo, though details about what exactly this refers to remain somewhat unclear from public reports. The term itself is evocative, as a cuckoo is a bird known for laying its eggs in other birds' nests, leaving them to raise offspring that are not biologically their own. The metaphorical implications when applied to questions of royal paternity are obvious and deeply provocative. The questions raised by Tom Bauer's testimony extend far beyond simple gossip or tabloid speculation. At the heart of his claims lies a forensic examination of timelines, relationships, and behaviours that, when examined collectively, paint a picture that diverges significantly from the public narrative that Harry and Meghan have presented about their relationship and family. To understand the full implications of Bauer's allegations, it is necessary to examine the figure of Trevor Engelson more closely. Engelson is not a household name, despite his connection to one of the most famous women in the world. He worked in Hollywood as a film producer and talent manager, operating in the industry's competitive landscape where connections and relationships are currency. His marriage to Meghan Markle lasted approximately 2 years before ending in divorce, a split that was initially characterized in media reports as amicable, the result of career pressures and geographical distance, while Meghan filmed her television series in Toronto. However, Bauer's testimony suggested that the clean break narrative does not align with evidence he has gathered. According to his claims, which he stated were supported by documentation, the relationship between Meghan and Trevor did not simply end when divorce papers were signed. Instead, Bauer alleged there was ongoing contact between the two that extended well into the period when Meghan was publicly involved with Prince Harry. The timeline Bauer presented to the court is particularly significant. Harry and Meghan reportedly first met in July 2016, introduced through mutual friends. Their relationship developed relatively quickly, though initially in secret to avoid media scrutiny. By November 2017, their engagement was officially announced, and they married in a globally televised ceremony at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle in May 2018. Archie was born almost exactly 1 year later, in May 2019. This timeline on its surface appears straightforward. However, Bauer's investigation allegedly uncovered patterns during this period that raise questions. He claimed to have obtained records from hotels, communication logs, and testimony from individuals who were in positions to observe Meghan's movements during the time she was filming in Toronto. According to Bauer, these records show periods when Meghan's whereabouts were not publicly accounted for, and these gaps allegedly coincide with travel or communication involving Trevor Engelson. The suggestion implicit in this timeline is troubling for multiple reasons. If Meghan maintained significant contact with her ex-husband while simultaneously developing a relationship with a senior member of the British royal family, it would represent a level of deception that goes beyond typical relationship complications. More significantly, if this contact continued into the period when Meghan would have become pregnant with Archie, it raises the fundamental question that Bauer's testimony appears designed to highlight: questions about the child's biological father. Bauer reportedly stated in court that his investigation included conversations with what he described as palace insiders. These individuals, according to Bauer, are longtime servants and staff members who work within the royal household and who have maintained their positions through decades of service, witnessing events from behind the scenes that the public never sees. The significance of these sources, if they exist as Bauer claims, cannot be overstated. Royal household staff are bound by strict confidentiality agreements and a cultural code of loyalty that has been built up over generations. The tradition of royal servants maintaining absolute discretion is legendary. For such individuals to break their silence and provide information to an investigative journalist would require circumstances of extraordinary significance. It would mean that whatever they witnessed or learned was deemed important enough to override years of training, professional obligation, and personal loyalty to the institution they serve. According to Bauer's account, these sources expressed concerns about aspects of Archie's birth that did not follow traditional royal protocols. The birth of a royal child, particularly one in direct line to the throne, has historically been surrounded by specific customs and procedures. These are not merely ceremonial flourishes but serve important legal and constitutional functions, ensuring proper documentation and eliminating any possible questions about identity or legitimacy. One of the most significant departures from tradition involved the medical documentation surrounding Archie's birth. Historically, royal births are attended by the surgeon-gynecologist to the royal household and other senior medical professionals whose signatures on birth certificates serve as official verification. However, reports at the time of Archie's birth noted unusual secrecy about which hospital was used, which doctors attended, and when exactly the birth occurred. The traditional photo opportunity on the hospital steps, a ritual that had been followed for generations, including for Prince William and Catherine's 3 children, did not occur in the expected manner. Furthermore, there was the unusual situation regarding Archie's birth certificate. Initial registration listed specific information, but approximately 1 month after the birth, amendments were made to the document. While changes to birth certificates are not unprecedented, the timing and nature of these changes struck observers as unusual. The modifications reportedly involved how Meghan's name and title were listed, changing from her full names and titles to simply the Duchess of Sussex, matching the style used on Prince William's children's birth certificates. At the time, this was explained as a matter of aligning with royal protocol, but Bauer's testimony appears to suggest it may have been part of a broader pattern of obscuring or controlling information about Archie's origins. The speed with which Harry and Meghan's relationship progressed has also been a subject of analysis. Royal courtships have historically been lengthy affairs, allowing time for thorough vetting of potential spouses and ensuring compatibility with the demanding nature of royal life. William and Catherine, for example, dated for several years before their engagement. Even Princess Diana and Prince Charles, whose relationship is now understood to have been problematic in many ways, had a courtship period that allowed for some degree of assessment. Harry and Meghan's relationship moved from first meeting to marriage in less than 2 years, with their engagement announced after approximately 16 months of dating. For an institution as tradition-bound and cautious as the monarchy, this represented an unusually compressed timeline. Bower's testimony suggested that this rush was not simply the result of passionate love, as has been romantically portrayed, but potentially reflected other pressures. Specifically, if Meghan discovered she was pregnant and had reasons to be uncertain about paternity, a quick marriage to Harry would resolve the situation in the most advantageous way possible. This interpretation, if accurate, would cast many of the Sussexes' subsequent actions in a different light. Their decision in 2020 to step back from royal duties, which they termed Megxit, was publicly explained as being driven by media intrusion and lack of support from the royal family. In their interview with Oprah Winfrey, which aired in March 2021 and caused global controversy, Harry and Meghan described feeling abandoned by the institution, subjected to racist treatment, and denied necessary support for Meghan's mental health struggles. However, Bower's testimony appears to propose an alternative explanation for their departure from the United Kingdom. He suggested that the move to California, where privacy laws are particularly strong and where the couple could exercise greater control over access to their children, was not primarily about escaping media harassment. Instead, it was allegedly a strategic decision to remove Archie from the sphere of influence of royal physicians and from the possibility of DNA testing that might be requested as the child grew older and any physical dissimilarities to the Windsor family became more apparent. The constitutional implications of these allegations are profound. The British monarchy, while largely ceremonial in its modern form, still serves important constitutional functions. The line of succession is not a private family matter, but a matter of national and indeed international significance, given the United Kingdom's role in the Commonwealth and its historical position in global affairs. If a child without legitimate claim to Windsor blood were placed in that line of succession, it would represent a fundamental fraud upon the constitutional order. The succession to the Crown Act governs who may inherit the throne, and legitimacy of birth has historically been an absolute requirement. While modern attitudes toward relationships and family structures have evolved considerably, the law regarding royal succession has not changed in these fundamental respects. A child must be the legitimate offspring of a person in the line of succession to have their own claim to the throne. Bower's presentation of evidence, according to reports from the courtroom, was methodical and detailed. He did not rely on speculation or innuendo, but claimed to have documentary support for his assertions. This included not just the timeline correlations and communication records already mentioned, but also, allegedly, internal reports from royal security services. These security reports, if they exist as Bower claims, would have been compiled as part of the standard vetting process that occurs when someone from outside the royal circle enters into a serious relationship with a family. Member.royal protection officers and security personnel maintain detailed logs and reports about the people they protect and those who come into contact with them. This is not done out of mere nosiness, but as a necessary security measure. Understanding the associations, backgrounds, and potential vulnerabilities of those close to royalty is essential for ensuring their safety. If such reports contained warnings or red flags about Meghan's continued associations with figures from her past, including Trevor Engelson during the time she was developing her relationship with Harry, it would represent a serious concern that palace officials would have been obligated to note and potentially act upon. The question then becomes, if such concerns existed and were documented, why was the marriage allowed to proceed? This touches on one of the most difficult aspects of the entire situation. The modern royal family, particularly after the death of Princess Diana, has been acutely aware of public perception regarding how they treat the spouses of family members. The memory of Diana's treatment and the ways in which she felt unsupported by the institution has cast a long shadow over royal family dynamics. There may have been reluctance to appear to be repeating past mistakes by blocking or interfering with Harry's choice of bride, even if concerns existed about aspects of her background or behaviour. The role of Buckingham Palace in this unfolding drama presents perhaps the most complex and troubling dimension of the entire affair. If Tom Bower's allegations have any foundation in truth, it means that the highest levels of the British royal institution have been aware of potential problems regarding Archie's parentage for years and have chosen silence over disclosure. Understanding why such a choice might be made requires examining the institutional pressures and political calculations that govern how the monarchy operates in the modern era. The British royal family exists in a uniquely precarious position in contemporary society. Unlike elected officials who can be voted out of office, or business leaders who answer to shareholders, the monarchy's legitimacy rests entirely on tradition, public support, and the perception of propriety. Any significant scandal that undermines public faith in the institution does not just damage individual family members, but threatens the very foundation upon which the monarchy stands. This creates enormous pressure to manage information carefully and to prioritize institutional survival over individual accountability or transparency. According to Bower's testimony, the palace was not naive about potential issues surrounding Archie's birth. He claimed that immediately following the birth at Portland Hospital in May 2019, while public celebrations were taking place and the world was cooing over photographs of the newest royal baby, behind closed doors a different process was occurring. Bower stated that palace officials initiated what was described externally as routine health screening, but which allegedly served a more specific purpose related to genetic testing. The existence of such testing would not be surprising in itself. Royal births have historically been subject to extensive medical documentation and verification, precisely because of the constitutional significance of establishing legitimate succession. What Bower alleges is more troubling that such testing occurred, but its results have never been made public and have been deliberately suppressed. According to sources that Bower claimed to have cultivated within palace circles, the results of any such genetic testing were sealed and stored in a highly secure location within Buckingham Palace, accessible only to the most senior members of the royal family. The alleged decision to keep these results secret, if Bower's account is accurate, would have been made at the highest levels, likely involving the late Queen Elizabeth II herself, along with her son, then Prince Charles, and grandson Prince William. The rationale for such secrecy, as Bower outlined it, relates to the broader context facing the royal family in 2019. That year was already proving difficult for the monarchy due to the escalating scandal involving Prince Andrew and his association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Media coverage of Andrew's friendship with Epstein and allegations of improper conduct were causing significant damage to the royal family's reputation. Public opinion was turning increasingly critical, with questions being raised about accountability, transparency, and whether the institution deserved the public funding and status it received. Into this already fraught situation, the revelation of another major scandal involving questions of paternity fraud within the direct line of succession would have been catastrophic. The decision-makers at the palace would have faced an impossible choice. On one hand, revealing the truth about Archie's parentage, if indeed there were questions about it, would demonstrate honesty and adherence to constitutional principles. On the other hand, such a revelation would likely trigger a crisis of confidence in the monarchy that could threaten its very existence. The calculus, according to Bower's interpretation, favoured silence. The reasoning would have been that managing the Sussex situation quietly, perhaps working behind the scenes to limit damage while keeping explosive information contained, posed less risk to the institution than public disclosure. This decision, while perhaps understandable from a purely strategic standpoint, created significant long-term problems. By choosing silence, the palace inadvertently provided Meghan Markle with a powerful shield. If Bower's account is accurate, Meghan would have understood that the palace could not publicly challenge her or raise questions about Archie's parentage without triggering the very scandal they were trying to avoid. This gave her considerable leverage in her dealings with the royal family. From this protected position, she and Harry were free to launch their own public relations campaign, including the explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey and the Netflix documentary series presenting their narrative of victimhood without fear of the most damaging information being released in response. The Oprah interview in March 2021 sent shockwaves around the world. In it, Meghan and Harry made serious allegations about their treatment by the royal family, including claims of racism, lack of support for Meghan's mental health struggles, and a general atmosphere of coldness and cruelty. The interview portrayed them as victims of an outdated and prejudiced institution that had failed to protect them. Public sympathy in many quarters swung heavily in their favor, particularly in the United States, where they had relocated. Throughout this period and in the years since, as the Sussexes have continued to make public statements through interviews, their Netflix series, and Harry's memoir, the palace has maintained what has been characterized as a policy of dignified silence. The official response to most allegations has been minimal, with the famous phrase "recollections may vary" representing about the extent of public pushback from Buckingham Palace. This restraint has been interpreted by many observers as admirable, showing that the royal family refuses to engage in public mudslinging or media battles. However, Bower's testimony suggests a different interpretation. The silence may not reflect dignity or taking the high road, but rather an institutional paralysis born of holding information that cannot be released without triggering unacceptable consequences. Prince Harry emerges from this analysis as perhaps the most tragic figure in the entire saga. By all accounts, Harry entered his relationship with Meghan as a man still processing significant trauma from his mother's death and his difficult experiences growing up in the intense spotlight of royal life. He was attracted to Meghan in part because she represented something different, someone from outside the royal bubble who seemed to understand him and offer the possibility of a more authentic life. Harry's subsequent actions, breaking with his family, moving to another continent, repeatedly criticizing the institution he was born into, all appear to have been motivated by what he believed was protecting his wife and children from the treatment that he felt contributed to his mother's death. The idea that some or all of these sacrifices might have been based on deception adds a layer of tragedy that is difficult to comprehend. If Bower's allegations are true, Harry has been manipulated on a scale that is almost unimaginable. He has burned bridges with his father and brother, damaged relationships that may never be repaired, sacrificed his military honors and royal titles, and positioned himself as an enemy of the institution. That defined his entire life up to that point, and he did all of this potentially while being kept in the dark about fundamental truths regarding his own family. The emotional and psychological impact of discovering such a deception would be devastating. Every moment of joy Harry has experienced as a father, every time he has looked at Archie and seen himself, every fierce defense he has mounted of his small family against criticism, all of it would be recontextualized in the most painful way possible. The question of whether Harry knows or suspects the truth has been the subject of considerable speculation. His appearance in the courtroom during Bower's testimony, described as shocked and hollowed out, suggests that if he did harbor suspicions, hearing them stated so directly and with such authority in a court of law brought them into sharp and unbearable focus. The position of Meghan in all of this is equally complex. If the allegations are false, she is a victim of one of the most vicious and unfounded smear campaigns imaginable, having her integrity questioned and her child's identity challenged based on nothing more than circumstantial evidence and malicious speculation. The emotional toll of such accusations would be immense, and her reported distress in the courtroom would be entirely understandable and justified. However, if there is truth to Bower's claims, then Meghan's actions represent a level of calculated deception that is genuinely shocking in its scope and implications. It would mean she entered into a marriage with a member of the royal family while potentially knowing that the child she was carrying, or would soon conceive, might not be his biological offspring. It would mean allowing that child to be placed in the line of succession to the British throne under false pretenses. It would mean constructing an elaborate public narrative of victimhood and persecution, while holding information that, if revealed, would vindicate many of the concerns and suspicions that critics had raised. The aftermath of Bower's testimony has created a situation where all parties are trapped. The Sussexes face the dilemma that any strong legal response opens them to discovery and potential requirements for DNA testing. The palace faces the reality that any confirmation of concerns would expose years of cover-up and call into question the judgment and integrity of senior royals. And Harry sits somewhere in the middle, potentially the victim of circumstances he neither created nor fully understands. The public reaction to these allegations has been mixed and often divided along pre-existing lines. Those who have been critical of Harry and Meghan from the beginning see Bower's testimony as vindication of their skepticism. Those who have supported the couple view the allegations as yet another example of the relentless persecution they have faced. The truth, whatever it may be, seems less important to many observers than confirming their existing beliefs and biases. What cannot be disputed is that the questions Bauer has raised in such a formal and serious setting will not simply disappear. The credibility he brings as an investigator, the legal context in which his testimony was delivered, and the specificity of his claims all combine to create a situation that demands resolution one way or another. The era of dignified silence and hoping the story fades away appears to be ending, replaced by a new phase where concrete evidence and definitive answers may finally be required. The legal and constitutional implications of Tom Bauer's testimony extend far beyond the personal drama of one family. What has been set in motion in that London courtroom represents a potential constitutional crisis that could fundamentally alter the British monarchy and its relationship with Parliament, the Commonwealth, and the British public. And what happens next could change everything we thought we knew about the royal family forever. From a purely legal standpoint, the situation presents extraordinary complexity. If Bauer's allegations were simply published in a book or stated in a media interview, the Sussexes would have clear grounds for a defamation lawsuit. They have demonstrated willingness to pursue such legal action in the past, having sued multiple publications over various claims they considered false or invasive. The fact that Bauer delivered his testimony under oath in a court of law changes the calculations significantly. But here is where things get really interesting and disturbing. For the Sussexes to effectively counter Bauer's claims, they would need to either prove that his testimony was intentionally false, which would constitute perjury, or demonstrate through evidence that his conclusions are based on misinterpretation or faulty reasoning. The most straightforward way to accomplish this would be to provide DNA evidence conclusively proving Archie's paternity. Such evidence, if obtained through proper channels and verified by independent laboratories, would immediately and permanently refute Bauer's central allegation. It would take one simple test to end this nightmare, so why hasn't it happened? The absence of such a response is what many observers find most telling. In the weeks following Bauer's testimony, there has been no announcement of legal action against him, no press release categorically denying the allegations, and no movement toward providing the scientific evidence that would resolve the matter definitively. Instead, there has been silence from Montecito, broken only by reports of Harry being in seclusion and appearing distressed. The silence is deafening, and it is raising questions that nobody in the palace wants to answer. This silence stands in stark contrast to the couple's previous behavior. They have been notably litigious and protective of their public image. Meghan won a lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday over publication of a letter to her father. They have taken legal action over unauthorized photographs. The lack of a vigorous response to these particular allegations is therefore conspicuous and has led to widespread speculation. What are they hiding? What don't they want us to know? One possibility is that legal advisors have counseled against immediate action, recognizing that any lawsuit would trigger discovery processes that could be more damaging than the original allegations. If the Sussexes were to sue Bauer for defamation, his legal team would have the right to demand production of medical records, communication logs, travel records, and potentially genetic testing. They could also compel testimony from Trevor Engelson himself, who has remained publicly silent about his relationship with Meghan since their divorce. The implications of what might be revealed in such proceedings are potentially explosive. For Buckingham Palace, the situation is equally fraught, perhaps even more so. If palace officials do possess evidence regarding Archie's parentage, as Bauer claims, their options are severely limited. Releasing such evidence would confirm that they conducted genetic testing without public knowledge and have been sitting on information of constitutional significance for years. The scandal would be unprecedented. The safest course from the palace's perspective may be continued silence, though this strategy has significant risks of its own. But how long can they maintain this position before the whole house of cards comes crashing down? The British Parliament may ultimately be forced to intervene, and when that happens, there will be no more hiding. Questions about the line of succession are not purely family matters, but constitutional issues that fall within Parliament's purview. If serious questions exist about whether someone in the line of succession meets the legal requirements, Parliament has both the authority and arguably the obligation to investigate. And such an investigation would tear open secrets that have been buried for years. For Harry personally, the implications are devastating regardless of the outcome. If the allegations are proven false, he will have experienced the trauma of doubting his son's paternity and having that doubt aired publicly in the most humiliating manner possible. If they are proven true, his entire life for the past several years has been based on a fundamental deception, and he has sacrificed relationships and status defending a lie he did not know was false. Harry could lose everything, and he may already have. As this situation continues to develop, the pressure for resolution grows with each passing day. The questions Bauer has raised cannot remain unanswered indefinitely without causing ongoing damage to all parties involved. The truth is coming, whether through leaked documents, parliamentary investigation, or a whistleblower finally deciding to speak. And when it arrives, it will shatter everything we thought we knew about the most famous royal couple of our generation.